Hello there. How's it going? It's gonna be a little echoey in here because the rug's gone, everything's... Stuff's packed, guys. Stuff's getting good packed, god. Goody. What's up? Hi, it's me. I got a lot going on. How is everybody doing? Yorkshire tea. I've never had Yorkshire tea. Sounds interesting. I've had Earl Grey, I've had Lady Grey, I had an Australian Grey that and I've had Irish. I haven't tried Yorkshire. Or Yorkshire. Shire. My glasses, I left my glasses outside. Alright. I've been robbed. Yeah, somebody broke into my house. Stole all my shit. They took the green screen and the rug. For some reason. The packages, boxes, and bags. Yorkshire. Everybody pronounces it differently. I trust nothing. General Kenobi. Yeah, we're just live on YouTube this time because most of what's gone on here has been sort of a YouTube exclusive thing. Instructional course. Birmingham? Did I do it? Okay. You're in Ukraine right now. Oof. Good luck to you. Yeah, Godspeed. Godspeed is right. Yorkshire. Yorkshire. Birmingham. Birmingham. I can barely pronounce regular English, let alone proper English, let alone regional dialect. Okay. So, I'm here to... Sorry, it's really echoey. It's really distracting. My brain is a little bit out of sorts because I'm in the middle of moving. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm moving at the end of the month. And then I guess we're building a goblin shed. A goblin streaming shed. So we'll see. We'll see what that's like. I'm just looking forward to this month being over and having all that done. But I've got, like, how many more days? I've got 1 week left. 1 week left. Worcestershire? Worcester? Worcester? Worcestershire? Worcestershire sauce? Worcester? Okay. So, yeah, that's why the camera angle's a little bit off. That's why, like, the lighting is weird in here. That's why everything is fucking all over the place. Goblin Shed sounds comfy. Hopefully it will be. Stream the actual construction. Oh yeah, I'll stream everything. I'll live stream when I'm like buying stuff or video some of the store things and anything that needs to get done. I'll set up a little stand and record and like fucking measure the place and shit. You'll get the whole process. Wash your sister. Worcestershire. Worcestershire. There's no H. There's no H? I don't believe you. Worcester. All different every time. Alright. I'm here today. I'm here today to talk about online harassment, which is what you're doing to me right now. Stop harassing me. Okay. So first thing we should probably talk about is, like, defining the term, right? So, like, what constitutes harassment? Particularly, like, people will think of, like, verbal harassment or, like, physical harassment in a physical place. And that changes a little bit when you start to talk about the virtual online sphere. Now, I think we all have to at least get on the same page and, at least for the sake of argument, agree that the online sphere and the quote-unquote real-life sphere are almost now just the Venn diagram is almost now just a circle. With the amount of work, life, banking, so much that takes place online, you have to sort of start to accept that the Venn diagram of what is real life and what is online, the online world, what about harassing harassers? Oh, we'll get to that. The Venn diagram is almost a circle. There's like a couple of spaces that are a little bit on the outside, but at this point, what goes on in the virtual world is very much a part of your real life. This is particularly this is a particular poignant issue when it comes to whether or not you're being harassed, right? So when you're a content creator, things change. When you're a viewer and you're a participant, things change. If you're a lurker or you're somebody who just tertiarily sort of exists on social media, the context changes. So there's these social contracts that are ill-defined, to say the least. Like, they're not necessarily very well-defined. Because they're social contracts. They're not supposed to be stringent. They're not a legal contract. They're not laws. They're social expectations and social contracts, and those are wibbly-wobbly. And they should be. That's by design. They're meant to be wibbly wobbly, right? Yeah, the line from online shitlordery to IRL nightmare can wear a mighty thin. Yeah, can wear mighty thin sometimes. Yeah. What if someone on the autism spectrum, trying to be friendly and nice, and being called a harasser, just asking totally not personal experience? Suspiciously specific. We'll get to this. That's a good through line to talk about, because that is, like, social expectations differ, and some social expectations are unfair to some people, right? In different contexts. So somebody just saying you're harassing me does not mean you have definitively crossed the line for harassment from a social standpoint, nor the legal standpoint, right? The legal standpoint is another line where we have decided as a society in very many countries that there are harassment laws. And so the general rule of thumb for physical is your freedom to swing your arm ends when your arm hits my face, right? So how does that apply verbally? Basically, when you don't let someone not engage with you is a general rule of thumb. So if somebody says, hey, leave me alone, and you keep shouting at them, and they try to walk away, and you follow them, that's now you've crossed the line of you're not allowing them to not listen to you, right? You're invading their space in a way that is wholly inappropriate. So, how do we talk about that in the online space? How do we address can you just log off? And the way we address the can you just log off is that you can't. What if, for example, someone has a social media account, they start being harassed, but they start believing that they're being harassed, and they say, hey, can you please leave me alone? Those people won't leave me alone. They delete their account, they make a new account to go engage somewhere else, and those people find them and keep going. Or move platforms, or from one content creator to another content creator. If you start preaching on a plane, people should be allowed to duct tape your mouth. There are rules of conduct around enclosed spaces where you have, like, a captive audience. There are rules of engagement. In Europe, the right to disengage even extends to employer-employee relationships. Workers are entitled to not be contacted by work outside of their working hours. Yeah, no, absolutely. So it depends on basically your ability to disengage. When you refuse to let someone disengage from you, you are the one doing the harassing at that point. So let's take the spectrum point. Hey, temporary. Normally a lurker? Yeah, hit the like button, thanks. Enjoy lurking. I appreciate the lurkers here. I promise I'll never call you guys out. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's take this back to the Asperger's autism spectrum, right? And say, okay, somebody sometimes, when you are somewhere on the spectrum. You will struggle to understand social cues that other people have an easier time understanding. Is that a fair... I think it's a fair description for, or apt enough for what we're talking about. It's certainly layman, it's certainly not a whole description, it is just functional for the sake of the conversation. So you might not understand when somebody is telling you to back off without them literally saying the words, "You need to back off and stop talking to me." And the confusion line goes with that person not knowing where this is coming from and wanting to understand why they're coming from this, and this person feeling harassed because this person now won't leave them alone, because now this person is asking questions to try to understand how things got to this point in the first place. So that is where you have this gray area and where that clashes. Tends to be where that clashes. Where this person has been bothered enough, feels like they've communicated clearly enough, and this person thinks this is coming out of left field for them. And so they want to understand what's gone on. Right? And they might be feeling upset, they might be feeling sort of like they've been caught off guard, they're confused, their feelings are probably hurt, etc., 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 right? And so that is that in-between line. That's where that gray line is like, okay, but are you, if somebody says that you're harassing them, are you actually harassing them? And then, like, you know, usually no. In most cases, no. But that doesn't change, that doesn't necessarily address, like, the social conflict, and doesn't necessarily address the social conflict of that person then going around and telling other people, this guy won't leave me alone, he's harassing me, when this person is literally just confused. And this is a both parties thing, right? This is a both parties in that sort of a situation need to learn how to navigate that more effectively. Allegedly they feel confused. Yes. We're not talking about anybody specifically. Now, this can be really difficult to navigate because the person with, the person who is being told, hey, fuck off, didn't realize they got to that point. Now they're at this point and they really want to know what's going on. But if they try to ask, they're now continuing to bother that person who's already been pushed to the point where they feel like they need to tell that person how hard they need to go fuck themselves, right? So, at that point, all parties should just shut the fuck up. Like, at that point, if somebody is doing work, like telling you that they're trying to disengage from you that hard, you need to let them disengage, even if you want to know really, really badly what happened. I would recommend, if you're really, really that curious as to what went on in your relationships, or in that specific relationship, is to say, okay, or just don't respond at all, back off, wait one day, then go back and read your messages back and forth with this person. Provided you have some. Now, this changes if you don't have any messages that you can go and review, if you don't have any interactions that can be reviewed. If this is all like, I don't know, a girl you met at a bar and you both frequent the same bar on a semi-regular basis, yeah, that's gonna be a little bit harder. In which case, you don't have to unpack everything, maybe just fuck it. You know what I mean? Borg, how could you curse me like that? But at that point, if they're willing to engage with you and explain what went wrong in the scenario, great, take the opportunity. But if you're going to do that, you can't be too defensive. Because they're going to, and that's assuming the person you're talking to is capable of explaining. And one thing that's important to remember is a lot of people do a lot of things socially intuitively. It's something that they've learned and they've practiced and they have as a habit and have for nearly their entire lives. So a lot of times people have a hard time explaining something they're doing intuitively because they haven't thought about it. So asking somebody to explain exactly what you did wrong is not going to be very easy for most people to do, and that also is going to very much depend on how accepting you are at the answers, even if you disagree with them. Social behavior note, did you always thought rolling your eyes means literally rolling your eyes around when and they've been doing the whole circle? When I roll my eyes almost always go all the way around. Not me, I read about it. If this is a one-time interaction, I would just drop it and let it go. Because, like, who is this person? Like, who is this person to you? Just a random person you met at a party and maybe you don't know what's going on with them, right? So, who knows? Maybe they're having a whole other issue that's completely unrelated to you. I don't need to worry about it too much. As someone who is autistic, I approach people how I want to be approached. Rarely. My pronouns are do not refer to me. So, to bring it back to harassment, a one-time interaction with a friend of a friend, yeah, I would just be like, okay, what's their problem, and move on. At that point, you don't need to worry about it. You can't control the other person's life, and you don't know what's going on with them, right? For all you know, you have, the way you flare your nostrils while you're talking about something reminded them of an abusive ex. And so they don't want to talk to you. It has nothing to do with you at all, right? Sometimes it has nothing. Sometimes it's wholly unrelated. Sometimes people are also just in a mood. And they're just like, nah, pass. Hard pass. Then again, if you're in that kind of mood, I don't know why you're going to a fucking party, but, you know, sometimes your friends drag you out. You could just be somebody who's introverted and is just, like, at the end of their social battery, you know what I mean? We should touch on the difference between friendly banter and harassment. Sometimes friendly banter gets too much and then rubs the line. Yeah, friendly banter is, is a vibe check. Do you know what I mean? There's like a vibe check of being able to know if you're doing friendly banter, you need to make sure that you are able to read the person you're doing the banter with. If you can't read or you're not confident in your ability to read the person you're bantering with, then you should probably be light in your friendly banter. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to recognize the line when you start to bump up against it, right? So friendly banter needs to be done between friends. One situation I do run across is that I say, I'm autistic, be patient with me, and people don't bother to be reasonably patient with me. Sometimes people don't take I'm autistic seriously and view it as more of like I'm gonna behave the way I want to because I have this and therefore I'm allowed to do what I want. As opposed to trying to communicate. Because there's a difference between the literal words you say, the intention behind it, and how those things are interpreted. And that's where you get the neurodivergent struggle, right? The struggle being like, oh, everybody's on the same page as to what these things mean, but nobody can explain to me what these things mean, and I am not on the same page. Please help me get on the same page. And the struggle with that is practice for everyone? Yeah, lady, they'll see it as an excuse instead of an explanation. Incorporating self-deprecation with banter can help. Yeah, as long as you don't overdo it. It's a balance, right? It's like any social interaction is a balancing dance. It's also really important to understand how you communicate. If you don't understand how you communicate and how people interpret you, you are never going to be able to communicate with people effectively. Regardless of wherever you fall on the spectrum. My wife is basically an empath and can explain to me why she's feeling what she is feeling and why other people around me, why other people respond to me the way they do. It makes our relationship work really well. Yeah, if you need somebody who can explain these things to you and has the spoons to do so and is willing to do so, then great. Yeah, get you one of those. Get yourself an interpreter for sure. mental health diagnoses are watered down from people doing armchair diagnosis. Though that and people sell, yeah, both from the outside and from the inside and yada yada yada. Oh, these are just braces. They're just it's just a brace. I've got AIDS. Hearing aids. Yeah. I'm blunt. My words mean what I intend them to mean. I hate that people read shit into it the way they say what I say. Yeah, it's one of those things that's like the line of people who know you and people who don't, right? And how well people know you, right? I am relatively blunt. My intentions are usually pretty straightforward, and I try to be very clear. But I also have years and years and years of practice. Right? And I've also spent a lot of time, like, dissecting people's communication. So, I should write a book. By the way, I have no educational background for this. Before anybody gets confused about that. My experience is all practical. Is it a stylish thing? Oh, I'm an artist, and I'm packing, and I used to type a lot, so this just keeps my wrists... I like to use them when when I'm not working a bunch, so they can, like, just ease them up a little bit. College dropout and a university dropout. I dropped out twice. Yeah, like, how much people like you is, like, such a variable. If you want to talk about, like, how to... If you can find somebody who's willing to explain and take the time to walk you through a situation, you should take that opportunity. Whether or not you think you need it, it will be useful to you. What do you think will become of Trump and Bibi? Will they have a falling out of Trump's... I mean, it's hard to... In my opinion, I don't think these people are actually, like, friends or anything in the first place. So they're just gonna do whatever they think is gonna get them the most benefit at the time, and they'll go, like, in and out with each other and stuff. Yeah, no worries. Dropped out once and reapplied for the same course. Nice. Hey, life happens, man. Sees a child heading towards poison. Keep your child away from that. Other people. You're calling my child dumb. Chesh, yes. Yes, I am calling your child dumb, and I'm calling you dumb. Don't put your kids on the internet. If you're worried about harassment and know about harassment stuff, don't put your kids on the fucking internet. Don't put pictures of your children on the internet. Don't talk about your children's lives on the internet. Don't do that. Cease. Desist. If there is anything you ever take away from me talking to you guys, it is do not put your kids on the fucking internet. I never dropped out, I simply walked away. What was the inspiration for today's stream? You think I'd have inspiration? What? You think way too highly of me. If you got accepted and enrolled but never signed up for classes, does that count as dropping out? I did that fresh out of high school. I don't know. I don't think that counts as... I think you have to actually go. I think you have to go and complete some coursework. Because then you signed up, got accepted, and then chose not to go, as opposed to dropping out. Alright. There was another thing that we brought up before I move on to, like, the more harassy thing. Feline, what did you say that you wanted to touch on? Oh, friendly banter. We touched on that. Before we move on, I should probably just give a brief summary of how to communicate. Brief summary of how to communicate is the most important thing is you need to listen. Listening is the most important, in my opinion, is the most important factor in whether or not you are going to be able to communicate effectively. The second most important thing is going to be flexibility. So the more flexible you are in how you are able to talk to people, the easier time you're going to have. That does not mean two-faced, by the way. Speaking differently to two different people is only two-faced if you're saying different things. If you're saying the same thing in different ways, you are not being two-faced, you are simply communicating effectively. If you're saying two different things, now you're being a two-faced bitch. How do you listen when you're practically deaf? Well, sounds like a skill issue. And this is what we mean by friendly banter. So, the last thing I think that you really need to have is just general knowledge. And not knowledge about how to communicate necessarily. I mean, having a larger vocabulary and having knowledge of the way you communicate so you can manipulate the way you communicate in a way that other people will understand better, more effectively. If you don't have the knowledge of how to be flexible and in what ways to bend, you're going to make mistakes. So, like, talking is, like, use word good is, like, the least important part of communication. Oh no, tried twice to get a physics and astrophysics degree, had problem dealing with some people. Oh, that sounds terrible. Yeah, cookies. Well, there's the 5 C's, but the 5 C's are a different issue. Non-native speakers. Well, not being a native speaker is not that important. Whether or not you speak a language natively is not necessarily an issue. I can see the green, guys. I'm not Manya. You can't trick me. I can see that it's green on my end. Being partially deaf is an advantage when moderating debates. Oh my god. I'm a non-native speaker and sometimes I have a problem expressing myself, sadly. That's a knowledge issue, right? That's a knowledge of culture and a knowledge of, like, your vocabulary and grammatical, like, understanding. And that can be a barrier, but it's not necessarily a problem in the same way. Did once upon a time. I've gotten better at this. I've learned. Oh, do you guys have any questions about that? Like, is that clear? Can we all sort of agree on that? Because if we can agree on these situations, then we can kind of move forward. But I want to clear up any questions, comments, concerns before I move on. I'll have to do another video, just like specifically a video just about, like, some of these concepts as standalones. This follows the philosophy rule. If you already philosophy, you're either already gonna get it or you're not gonna get it at all. And if you already get it, you don't need it. It's more of, like, just an exercise and practice for funsies as opposed to, like, you know what I mean? Communication is advanced manipulation. People messing up their own exchanges of dialogue and then blaming others and imploding instead of asking questions or self-reflecting is a pet peeve. It is annoying. Sometimes when that happens, I feel like at that point somebody's just looking for a fight. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's, like, you're being self-destructive and you're doing it on purpose and you're blaming other people. That's a self-destructive antisocial behavior, though. You can communicate without even using words. Yeah, absolutely. Looking for feedback and understanding from the people and adapting based on that. Yep, that's the listening part, right? If you pay close attention to other people, they will be very clear. And some of that is verbal communication, some of that is nonverbal communication, right? Communicating starts with I statements is, in my opinion, an underappreciated communication tool. Yeah, it's an I thing. You have to understand yourself. If you don't understand yourself, how can you expect anybody else to understand you? Like, that's just not reasonable. You expect everybody to be able to understand you better than you understand yourself? Because you intuitively think you know what's going on. Do you? You don't. It just takes practice. I have yet to find a conversation that I can't fucking, like, win my way around in circles. Conversations that I've had very rarely go south. I've definitely shut down conversations before they've been started. I mean, you guys have seen me. I've done this on stream a few times. Some people can't communicate themselves out of a paper bag. People commonly assume they know me better than I know myself. What you actually think / want is this. I can tell by your facial expression. Yeah, that's no good. That's no bueno. That's something that should be phrased as a question, not something phrased as a statement. So if you think that you know what somebody is trying, like, if you think that somebody is saying one thing but meaning something else, ask. Don't just say it's this or that, right? You go, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Is this what you mean? And if the person says no, say, oh, okay, I didn't quite understand, can you explain this? Allegedly, when Asperger's people have a convo, they usually try to make the other person speak about themselves. Apparently humans do enjoy talking about themselves. That's a classic. Okay, so that's half of it, right? And it depends on how much you care. Why are you having this conversation in the first place? Do you care about the other person you're having a conversation with? One of the easiest ways to get people to trust you and open up and to talk to you is to be earnest and to earnestly care. Just tricking somebody into talking about themselves isn't gonna, like, why do you care? Isn't going to, like, earn you any relationship points, right? Having more conversations with somebody doesn't mean you've earned more relationship points. Like, your likability isn't going to go up because you're having more conversations. Because they've talked about themselves more, right? That's not how it works. Sometimes somebody could have, like, a whole in-depth conversation, you could know everything about their life, and they might fucking hate you. Allegedly, Asperger's people wouldn't talk to others if they didn't care. Are you retaining the information? If you ask somebody, a conversation is two ways. Indicating that you care in a conversation isn't solely about letting them talk about themselves. It's a two-way street, right? It's gotta have back and forth. So if one person is basically doing all the talking and talking about themselves all the time, it's gonna be very unfulfilling. It's gonna be an unfulfilling conversation. Unless you're doing an interview, in which case that's a whole different scenario that goes off to the side. So, like, for example, there is a very drastic dynamic difference between what you guys know about me and what I know about each of you as individuals. Right? I don't know much about you. Or some of you I know more about than others, but I don't know much about you guys except for what you share with me, and there's a lot for me to remember, because there's a lot of you, and there's only one of me. As opposed to you guys knowing about me, because you can see me, you can see my background, you can glean information from what's going on. I tell you guys about some things that is going on, but there's a lot you don't know about me. But those are more just, like, factoids of things that have happened, or things going on, right? Which is just separating personal stuff that you guys don't need to know about. We don't know anything, we're dumb. We're all dumb here. Hey, welcome. You got ice cream? There's only one Chesh, just don't get it wet after midnight. Yeah, don't feed me after midnight. I'll turn into a gremlin. Hey, got this cover. Good to see you. There's this guy named Pete who seems to be completely misreading the situation. My eyebrows tell a story. We're talking about harassment and communication and like these blurry social lines. We do have a lot more in-depth stuff to talk about harassment specifically, but we're gonna get there. I'm easing us into this conversation. We're easing it in. We're easing it in. Are goblins and gremlins a type of fungus? Goblins are very fungoid. Gremlins, not so much. Worst thing than gremlins, like flat earthers. Gremlins are smart enough to know the earth isn't flat. Chesh is specifically the black mole that drove Rowling insane. Oh, man. Gender and fungi are weird. There's fungus among us. Fungus are so cool. Alright. We're getting too distracted. Anything else about communication? Oh, we should probably mention the difference between what somebody says, what somebody intends, and what the responses are. Right? And the interpretation. And then how somebody responds. So I guess we can call that 3, right? 4. Right? There's what you've said, what you meant, or like what you wanted to communicate. I shouldn't say meant. I don't want to put an additional intent on it. It's what you said, what you wanted to communicate, how they interpreted it, and then how people are responding, right? Those are like sort of the 4 main steps, right? And so what you've said doesn't always communicate what you want to communicate effectively because there's more factors than just the literal word you've said, right? The literal words you've said. So like, for example, English is bad for this as well because English doesn't really do much for your grammar. Like we're not very good at indicating grammar when we're speaking. So like commas, right? I had Grandpa for dinner last night. You ate Grandpa? Grandpa's dead? Did you cook him? What what spices did you put on Grandpa? Was he barbecued? Like, language is unclear. Particularly English. To, it's much of its chagrin. So, what did I mean? What did I intend? What did I want to communicate? Did I want to say that I had Grandpa over for dinner and I had a really bad time or I had a really good time? What am I implying? Nothing. There's no implication in that. My tone might implicate the difference, right? The difference between... Did the thing go off? Oh, smash! My beer's ready. So for example, like if I say, I had Grandpa for dinner last night, my tonality versus I had Grandpa over for dinner last night is indicative of the vibe as opposed to the words. So what happens when you say it in text? What happens when you turn everything into social media? All of that is gone. Let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma. Yeah, exactly. A witch who helps blind children. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another good example. A witch who helps blind children. A witch who helps blind children. A witch who helps blind children. Those are the, like, so you need that tonality. Yeah, let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma, right? It's eat the rich is unambiguous. Consume. Yeah, the way tonality works in languages that use tonal to indicate, like, in its pronunciation, it's like the tonality is just built into the word at that point. Go get your PhD in English. I should probably have a degree in communications. I probably should have a degree in psychology and communication. Punctuation saves lives. Punctuation is very important. But again, this is just English. So it's a matter of, like, when you want to jump languages or you're speaking a language. So if I was trying to communicate in French, I would have a really hard time besides trying to literally translate what I'm trying to say. Right? So the literal words you're saying don't necessarily indicate what you're trying to communicate. Then doesn't necessarily indicate what you're trying to imply. You need that tonality. And now contextually, you can get some of that in text. Right? You can get some of that in text by using things like /s if you're being sarcastic, or by using capitals if you want to put emphasis on a word, or using italics to emphasize a word. Yeah, sarcasm font. Yeah. In my experience, people use idioms way less in school would have me believe. Idioms are used a lot more in writing, I find, than verbal communication. This is like if you're reading a book. Oh, thank you. Sounds like it's gonna get here before I move. It's a pipe bomb! Emojis are good too. Yeah, emojis are great for that. That's just hieroglyphics. Punctuation is the difference between I slayed Chesh and I slayed Chesh. Yeah. Goblin Slayer. Well, yeah, so here's the thing. Then you have words that mean other words in different Vous ne parlez pas français? Je ne parle pas français. Je ne parle pas. Je ne parle pas français. I can't do it. Je ne parle pas en français. There you go. I've been working on my French a little bit, but the move has gotten me distracted. Any excuse. Give me any excuse to be distracted from practicing French. Okay. So if you take words that mean different words, right? So if you take I slayed Chesh and I slayed Chesh, but what does slay mean in this context? What if slayed means, like, fucked and, like, took to bed? Right? I slay goblins. Do you? Do you slay goblins? Right? So if you take a word that in different contexts is you're using, like, one word to replace another word, right? Actually, the word fuck is a really good example. You can have an entire sentence made entirely of the word fuck, and it'll make perfect sense. You can put fuck in any sentence in English, and it's valid. And it will make sense to English speakers. Yeah, asking for a rubber in the UK and the United States is very different. Yeah, if you're traveling. But even regional dialects, right? Yeah, pussy slayer. Exactly. Oh yeah, buffalo, 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 buffalo. Right? Admittedly, you are using some obscure uses of the word buffalo that do not get used anymore. But it still works. It's still valid. Butt fucking, for example. Right? That one scene in that movie killed me. Yeah, they're not literally dead. So literal word is not necessarily what is actually you're trying to accomplish. Right? Keep cheshing around. Oh, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, turning any word. English has this weird thing where you can kind of turn any word into a verb. English is just cheating. English is just cheating. Like, I have such a I love English for how malleable it is, and hate English for how malleable it is. Anytime someone says, but fuck me. Yeah, fuck me. Like, that has a very different connotation. If I go, fuck me, versus if I go, oh, fuck me. You know what I mean? Like, there's like there's different connotations, right? So, you have to, like, keep in mind. So let's talk about how this applies to harassment. The escalation is generally... The escalation and not being able to disengage are the two main factors in what changes something from being a disagreement or let's call it an ugly social interaction versus escalating to the point where it can be considered harassment. Now, the term might get thrown around colloquially, right, and say, hey, leave me alone. Why? What happened? Leave me alone. You're harassing me. No, I'm not. I just want to know what's going on. Stop harassing me. You didn't actually harass that person. That's not quite what that's become, right? The person's more just saying that as like a threat and as like not a threat. Threat's the wrong word. As like a barbed comment. A barbed comment to get you to leave them alone. It certainly would not reach the level of legal harassment. But it's that ability to disengage. So, like, if somebody says that to you, you try to ask these questions, then they block you, then you get you get a different phone or a different account to go and talk to that person. Now you're reaching the line of harassment because you are stopping that person's ability, or you're removing that person's ability to disengage. And as soon as you remove that person's ability to disengage, you're the problem. Right? So that's where that line starts to get crossed. Yeah, it's an over-exaggeration. It disincentivizes somebody. That's a good word for it. What monster flavor would you be? I haven't drank enough Monster. I know what Monster flavors I like, but I don't know what Monster flavor I would be. So you'll have to tell me. Imagine my confusion when my ex said she saw prawn for the first time. Oh. So the way let's move over to this for a second, because this is a little bit of like the court updatey. Ignore my chat. Ignore that. Not important. So we've been following this situation of online harassment, right? We've been following it for 3 years. Definitively going on to its 4th year, we've been watching this happen. And watching it go through the court system, and watching the streams going on. And just watching this entire scenario unfold, right? So for the new here, too long didn't read, a group of content creators online had a disagreement with a private person that they had asked to do moderation for them in a Facebook group, disagreed with the way that person handled it. That person said, okay, just leave me alone then, tried to disengage, then they reached out to that person's family and tried to bring them on the live streams and started basically attempting to slander them online and reach out to the person's hairdresser in this person's town. For a scale of, to make this a little bit like understandable, there are more viewers, like more subscribers that this group of content creators have than there are the number of people that live in this person's town. How do I know that? I went to the town. I went for court and witnessed, so I traveled there, and I was there and I checked the place out. It's small. It's a nice little town. They've got a great ice cream shop. So I've seen people throwing around terms like lawfare, and I've seen people throwing around terms of like what we're the ones being harassed because this woman won't leave us alone, this is the private person, by the way. And the content creators are saying this person won't leave them alone. So they're trying to spin this the other direction. And the way this person won't leave them alone is that the courts are pursuing them. Can we brand the company as Dullards Are Us? Yeah, Darvo is a good word for it. Well, they're trying to rewrite and do revisionism, right? They're trying to rewrite history. And the thing is, like, we watched it. A lot of this stuff happened publicly, which was part of the problem. Is that basically this group of content creators tried to use their power in this power dynamic where I have more power than each of you do on average, right? Because I have a platform. I can sit here and I can just blather on and on and on, but you're stuck in chat, which means there's no verbal, there's no visual, there's no tone, and you have to be slowed down, and I can kick you out of the chat. The power dynamic is not reasonable, right? If I have 5,000 subscribers, that's going to feel far more overwhelming if I decide to target one person specifically who doesn't have that following, right? So one of the things that is irritated about me before we get into this, I should say this real quick. The self-righteous attitude, hypocrisy coming out of this is like from people like Sean and Aaron, who are two of the content creators in this case, Megan, pretending, LARPing, like they're doing some big fight for free speech is absurd. It's absurd. This is why I brought up your right to swing your arm ends when it makes contact with my face. Your right to say whatever you want ends when you do not allow someone to disengage. Oh, it's not that you have no power. It's that you have less power. The power dynamic, comparatively, right? That's actually an interesting question. Can engaging someone in the legal system be considered harassment? You could make an argument that it's literally the opposite because it's literally legal. So, engaging somebody with the legal proceedings is not, by definition, legal harassment by the legal term, right? Now, there's a nuance in that feline, but for the sake of things, that does not mean you cannot abuse the legal system. The legal system is a tool and it can be weaponized. You can weaponize the legal system, but one, you need to know what you're doing, and two, you need to have money. You can't, it is not the type of tool that can just be weaponized willy-nilly by anybody. Now, there's a difference between whether or not you're being harassed and whether or not you feel like you're being harassed. Let me come back for a second. Hi, it's me. Come here. Hi. All right. There's a difference between whether or not you feel like you're being harassed and whether or not you are being harassed. So, for example, as a content creator, you have to understand that if you are getting pushback on something and a handful of people, let's say you've got 5,000 people. If 100 people all leave you the same comment, they're not harassing you. You might feel overwhelmed, you might feel burdened, you might feel stressed out about that, but they are not harassing you as individuals because they are all one time saying one thing. So as a content creator, you have to accept that when you get pushback, this is what it's going to be like. So you're going to have to figure out how you're going to navigate that appropriately. Now, that does not mean that it can't be harassment. It can be. If the criticism isn't legitimate, if the complaint is part of an overall group of people that are purposefully coming in to try to cause problems on purpose. You might be getting memed on, and so you might be getting trolled. Is trolling harassment? There's a gray line in there where there's some overlap, or it can be. Harassment is all about context. Things have to be contextually relevant for it to be harassment. If you protest, are you harassing a business? If you protest a politician outside of that politician's house on the public property, like the road outside of their house, are you harassing that politician? She's not short, she's just close to mother. You're saying that it's difficult to weaponize the legal system if you're running a GoFundMe for a lawsuit you haven't actually filed. Yeah, it would be. It would be very difficult. Also, the amount of ongoing effort and how many instances over time. Yeah, all of these are part of the context, right? These are all of it's contextually based. So whether or not something is harassment is entirely based on what context you can show that it is, in fact, harassment. We should probably pull up at this point the legal definition, right? Let's pull up the legal definition of harassment. So let's talk about, this is going to be the Canadian Criminal Code, all right, for now. And we'll expand, not all of them are the same, all right? So you're just going to have to understand that the United States and each of the states are going to have their own definitions. Different countries are going to have their own definitions. We're going to use Canada for now because I'm in Canada, so fuck you. So criminal harassment. 2641, no person shall, without lawful authority and knowing that another person is harassed or recklessly as to whether the other person is harassed, engage in conduct referred to in subsection 2 that causes the other person reasonably in all of the circumstances to fear for their safety or the safety of anyone known to them. The conduct mentioned in subsection 1 consists of repeatedly following from place to place the other person or anyone known to them, repeatedly communicating with, either directly or indirectly, the other person or anyone known to them, besetting or watching the dwelling house or place where the other person or anyone known to them resides, works, carries on business, or happens to be, or engaging in threatening conduct directed at the other person or any member of their family. Yeah, I'm Canadian. Okay, so keep in mind that this says, no person shall, without lawful authority, right? So there are circumstances where each individual one of these things might not be considered legal harassment. It's about context. Do you have the authority to be doing this? Do you know? Are you doing so recklessly? Are you doing so without caring, being negligent about what you're doing is being harmful to the other person, right? If you're doing it intentionally, your intention is to bother the other person. Like, for example, if you were to be so foolish as to say something online that we're going to overwhelm her with content so she can't do anything to us about what we've been doing to her. If you were to say something that fucking stupid. Canadians are too nice to be criminals. No. You need to open a history book, my friend. Canadians are polite. People mix that up a lot. There's a difference between nice and polite. And we're gonna have to go. This is one of those words that people use interchangeably that they do not mean the same thing. Yeah, there's lots of Canadians on the internet. There's lots of us around here. Especially if you start looking. Anyway, are we comfortable? Chat. One in the chat if you agree that this is a functional definition for harassment that we're talking about. This works as sort of like an overall. As an umbrella term. One in the chat for yes, two in the chat for no. I want to make sure that nobody disagrees with this for some reason. Canadians are responsible for half of the Geneva checklist. Is it only half? I know Poland's got like a pretty strong pull in there. Polite is mostly just social etiquette. Yes. Correct. You can be very polite and say some scathing shit. 2? 3 for the manatee. You think this is too broad? What? Please, yeah, please, by all means, please elaborate. Because this is like the criminal code. If our criminal code is too broad, that could be problematic. There's also like punishments. Every person who convenes this section is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years, or an offense punishable by summary conviction. Factors to be considered: where a person is convicted of an offense under this section, the court imposing the sentence on the person shall consider as an aggravating factor that at the time the offense was committed, the person contravened the terms and conditions, blah, 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 subsections, reasons, blah, 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 blah. I'm Polish, so we can align there. Hey! Hey! Poland and Canada. One of my favorite things that happened in recent history was, as shitty that all of everything that Russia's doing is, the fact that they flew some drones over Poland. Poland went, what the fuck? And Canada peeked its head out from inside of Poland, being like, hey, what's up, bud? What you doing? But just the fact that Canada's already in Poland, being like, hey, been a minute. Well, hey there, been a minute. Bud, what you doing over there, eh? Too broad for repeatedly going to the same places. Okay, so you're talking about besetting or watching the dwelling, house, or place where the other person or anyone known to them resides, works, carries a business, and or happens to be? Or is that what you mean? No lawgiver can ever be every fitting in every situation. That's why we have courts and judges. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the... Yeah, no, you're good. The, yeah, I know there's a delay. The, 2A, repeatedly following. Oh, repeatedly following them from place to place, the other person or anyone known to them. The pub example, like 2 people are going to the same pub. Yeah, because there's a difference between both people happening to be at the same place and the other person purposefully showing up when they know the other person is being there to follow them, right? This is why the prohibited conduct has to be, like, if you notice, engaging conduct referred to in subsection 2 that causes the other person reasonably in all the circumstances to fear for their safety or the safety of anyone known to them. So just showing up at the same bar alone would not be enough. It has to be you are repeatedly showing up from place to place, which means is indicative of more than one time in more than one place, with this intent that the person is reasonably in fear for their safety. Right? So just because you both frequent the same bar, that's not gonna be good enough to be considered criminal harassment. It might be annoying, it might be a shitty thing to do, but a shitty thing to do does not necessarily, and you might feel harassed, but does not mean it reaches the level of criminal harassment. I should grow my hair longer? I don't know. It's getting longer. I do want it to be a little, I want to get it to like here. I'm gonna let it get as long as my collarbone, and then see. This side needs a shave, but that's okay. We'll get there. There needs to be specific intent, yeah. So you have to have you have to have the contextual the contextual examples or the contextual relevance for it to be considered harassment, right? It could be lawsuit, might lose, but it's a basis for it. How do you make evidence of intent? So that's a really good question. From a legal standpoint, how do you show intent? So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. One of the ways is admittance, right? If somebody says that that's what their intent is, right? Either directly or indirectly. So if, for example, someone would be so stupid as to say, I sent you that so you wouldn't do something stupid like, for example, show up in court in another country. So you're telling me that you purposefully sent information to try to sway the opinion so in your favor so someone wouldn't be a witness in court. That would be a really fucking dumb thing to say out loud on a recording, that's for sure. But people say dumb shit all the fucking time. So, believe it or not, a lot of times people make their intent very clearly known. Especially when it comes to harassment. People who are trying to harass other people aren't usually subtle. So you can prove intent by, through the person admitting that they're purposefully harassing them. Like, for example, if somebody were to say on a recording something along the lines of, you earned this harassment, I'm harassing you. And yes, people do say shit like that. I'm not joking. You could prove intent, for instance, if you had records showing they researched what times and places they'd be at. Yep. Yeah, that would be a good example. Right. And Feline's got a good point. To harass somebody is very hard to be subtle because if you're trying to harass somebody, you want the other person to know what you're doing. If they don't know what you're doing, you're not successfully harassing them, right? Somebody intentionally passing around information, somebody intentionally going around in the background to people to try to talk shit about you or for something, for example, that could be considered a form of harassment if it were to escalate, right? Where they're trying to negatively influence your reputation or your place of business to try, right? So that swings into that. A lot of harassment can kind of umbrella into libel and slander. Nobody would be that dumb in real life. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, one can start without an intent to harass and still fitting the definition. Yeah, absolutely. So, like, you really think that if I go, let's say I say out loud at some point, Thursday is my shopping day, and I go to the grocery store, and I hit this store, this store, this store, right? In that order, and I post about how, oh, I found this good deal here, and I found this good deal here, and I'm just, like, normally posting on social media saying, oh, hey, bananas are on sale here, I got those here, and then you can see the times of the posting, and somebody is looking at my social media, and they're able to figure out that I go shopping on Thursdays at 3 p.m., and I go to the stores in this order. And then you just happen to show up at those places at that time, waiting for me, trying to, like, follow me around the store, taking pictures of me. Like, it's pretty indicative that behavior that you'd be able to see through Google search, like your search history, the history on your browser, you'd be able to see from security camera footage. These are not subtle things. Clearly you intended to be there at the same time that I did. Clearly you were following me around. You didn't just happen to go to all these stores at this time in this order, and I was easily avoidable. Especially since at that point I might have already made it clear, I don't want you to follow me around. Go away. Right? It's that you are not allowing that other person to disengage. And it's usually pretty clear when somebody is not allowing you to disengage, right? So, like, in a bubble, you could imagine how each of these things could be totally coincidental, but that alone would not be enough to do a lawsuit over. It could be the starting point, but anything can kind of be a starting point for a lawsuit. It just doesn't mean you're gonna have a good one. And in that case, who cares, right? You could be a very smart conservative if you also happen to be very evil. Completely unrelated reason. Yeah. As an example. For, as a treat. But yeah. So, I think we can work with this as like a functional... Keep my message short, the pub situation, let's say it's on university, okay. And the other person, call them Joe, is attending the same class in a different group. You might ask, hey, what's Joe's group at some point out of curiosity? Now it's evidence of a potential doing research to know Joe's schedule, to be there every day. Yeah, but you'd have to actually do it. Asking a question about somebody alone is not enough, right? You would have to actually be following Joe around, and then that message could be used to show that you intended to follow Joe around. You were asking about Joe's schedule, right? So if you only ask about somebody's schedule and you're just because of like just general conversation, you're like, okay, well, anyway, and move on, then there's nothing to be had, right? But if you are following Joe around, and then when people look at your messages and they see you've been asking around about about Joe's schedule and where Joe's gonna be, it's gonna show that you intended to do the thing you did, right? You didn't coincidentally showed up, right? So the thing is like, you're not gonna figure out somebody's intent by actions alone, and you're not gonna figure out somebody's intent if they haven't done anything. The two are intertwined. Hey, Chesh, what's your schedule? Look up on Google Earth where you live. Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Anyway. A PI can be harassment by proxy, I guess. Well, to be a PI, you have to have lawful authority. And keeping in mind that like somebody could take the information, could hire a PI, that PI could get information completely legally, and then the person who hired the PI could then use the information to do harassment, but the PI wouldn't be the one harassing you. Right? Yeah, that's what, like, there's going to be situations where you might be able to poke holes, but that's entirely going to be in how you built your case with your lawyer and how the judge is going to review your case, right? If it was too, Kira's right. If the definition wasn't broad enough, it would only apply to very specific circumstances, which would make it more, you know what I mean? How would you put it more concise without enabling gamesmanship? Yeah, that's a whole other question. Keeping in mind that, again, harassment is entirely contextual. And just because you're being harassed does not mean it has escalated to the criminal level. You can harass somebody without reaching criminal points. Excuse me while I buy the streaming shit across the street. Yeah. So let's just say that this is functional enough for now. Oh, hey, what's going on? Civil harassment, yeah, this is criminal harassment, because there's a difference between civil harassment and criminal harassment, and as well as, like, just uncomfortable social situations. I've had a lot of people trying to harass me for years. How successful that harassment is negligible, but that doesn't mean they're not trying. You see, this is the other thing, is that a lot of people only consider harassment if it's successful. And the thing is that if the harassment is successful, it's already a little bit too late. You know what I mean? So, for example, just because somebody tried to break into your house doesn't mean they didn't do something illegal if they didn't succeed. Just because somebody tried to kill you doesn't mean that they didn't attempt murder, right? There's still like a fucking... Trying is already problematic in the first place. The thing is, with law, things have to have happened. The law is reactive, not proactive. Police are reactive, not proactive. The police aren't going to protect you. The police can't do shit until something has already fucking happened. So there is no... Serve and protect is a bullshit phrase that doesn't mean anything. The police are a private investigator. A PI is a private investigator. It's no Minority Report. Yes. So the attempt to harass, how successful it is neither here nor there, right? Yet the law is reactive, not proactive. Right? Something already has to be happening for the law to do something about it. Which is part of the problem with the legal system in general. It's one of the flaws of the legal system, I should say. So, like, for example, let's say you're in a domestic situation and somebody in the house is abusive, right? The police are not and cannot intervene until things reach a certain level. Right? Things have to reach have to escalate to a certain point before the police can actually intervene. Right? Which can be incredibly fucking frustrating, but it's intentional. That's the way the system is built. If you want preventative, you don't go through the police. You have to go through other means. Like, some places will have social programs. Some places will have yada, 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 yada. Right? Stop pretending the police are going to help you. The police cannot help you. They can only, like, collect your corpse. All right. So let's take a look at this. So this is a situation that's been going on for now 3 years, and there's this big fucking post that we're gonna read through real quick, quote unquote. With the rise of cyber stalking, online harassment, and weaponization of the LE in courts, what guys? Lawful evil? I'm assuming this is like law enforcement. So, like, that's like doing, like, if you call, like, an illegitimate check on somebody through the police or try to swat them or something like that, right? I play too much TTRPGs. With the rise of cyber stalking, online harassment, and weaponization of the law enforcement and courts on YouTube and social media, I wanted to share some of the cases that I found or that have been shared with me by attorneys. I hope this helps someone else avoid what I've been through. State versus Dunbar, 2025, NH 26, NH 2025. The court affirmed that indirect contact prohibited by a stalking protection order explicitly encompasses public social media posts aimed at the victim and established that when a defendant uses social media profiles to consistently anchor posts to a protected person, the conduct falls square within the criminal definition of stalking and protective order noncompliance. United States. Oh, that's going to be another one. So, all right, let's talk about this one first. All right, so let's talk about an example. So if I have a restraining order against somebody, and that somebody doesn't say anything to me in particular, but a friend of that person says something, and that person retweets what that person said about me, or says something that encourages that other person to start talking about me, or they send that person to come and talk to me, that is all violations. So if Aaron, for example, in this situation, had an account that had Katie is a liar, Kial, making tweets, and Aaron is not directly saying anything, but Katie is a liar is saying something, then that would be Aaron violating her restraining order. For example. Right? United States versus Young, 37 F.4th 70 D 3D Circ 2022. The Federal Appellate Court, in one of the most critical federal cases regarding cyberstalking and the First Amendment, the defendant used his digital skills to create blog posts and social media profiles to harass a victim. The court established that cyberstalking is legally classified as conduct, not speech. All right? So this free speech bullshit, This attempt to argue free speech on I'm allowed to say whatever I want, therefore I can't harass anybody. Or somebody saying that you're harassing me is limiting my free speech. Right? Cyberstalking is legally classified as conduct, not speech. So what's the difference? What's the difference between conduct and speech? You talking in a bar amongst your friends is different than you going around the bar talking shit on somebody in particular. Conduct, speech. Does that make sense? You guys follow? So just because social media is in text format does not mean it's not behavioral. Does that track? I want to make sure I haven't lost anybody. It's particular. The law is very specific, right? And it talks about things in a way that that is not necessarily applicable socially, right? So just because you're allowed to do something socially does not mean it's legal, or just because you're allowed to do something legally does not mean it's socially acceptable. You can speak a conduct, but you can't conduct a speech. May you? Can you? I don't know. My freedom of conduct. So the difference between, if I had to, like, if we go back to the example of if I can swing my hand as far as I'm allowed to swing my arm freely until I hit your face, and that ability to disengage. There's another one that goes along with this too that we kind of haven't really talked about too much, and it has to do with things like bullying and slander. Right? If somebody accuses you of being a rapist, your conduct that starts to lean into conduct. Right? You are slandering someone with an intent of ruining their reputation to harass them. Because, like I said, there's sometimes slander and libel start to fucking. There's a gray area in there. Somebody lying about somebody is a way to harass them. Right? So. Ding dongs continue to dong. Yeah, basically. Sorry, I'm just watching Smitty and Christy in chat. The claim of freedom of speech already goes awry from the get-go, since it's only in relation to you versus the government. Yes, yeah, that's just a standard misinterpretation or misunderstanding of constitutional law. I don't trust therapists because the greatest therapist who he is without the exactly. Oh, yeah. Chesh needs to harass me more online. Oh, don't give me an excuse. Are you giving me an excuse? Because I will. I hope your move is going better than mine. Oh, you know, it's a move. It's a pain, regardless. So there's a big difference. One of the things about online and the online social sphere on social media, you have to log in. You have to, load up the website, log in, find the post, author a post, publish a post. There are many steps between point A and point B, and versus you just saying something stupid to somebody's face. Right? If I'm walking down the street and I yell a racial slur at somebody, then there wasn't really a whole lot of extra work that I had to do to get there. You know what I mean? if I yell a racial slur at somebody because I'm in a fight with them and it's escalating, right? Versus if I'm outside and I have to then follow somebody around and keep yelling that racial slur at them every time I see them, and I'm purposefully going to places I know they're going to be, right? On social media, tagging somebody, posting in places where you know that person's going to be, following them around to different websites and trying to find them, quote unquote. Like, we literally watched this group of online harassers go around and purposefully dig through years worth of Facebook posts to find anything related to this individual. Right? On Facebook. Right? A street, like outside? Yeah. On Twitter, looking and digging up for recent, like not too long ago, Aaron was trying to claim that somebody named like Rielu or whatever, some other account was this person. Like, going around to try to find them. If you're going around and trying to find them, you're the one putting in the work, are you not? Like, what are you talking about? You see what I'm saying? There's fucking... You have to get online and go out of... You're already going out of your way to engage in a specific behavior, and that's what makes it conduct as opposed to, I just said some stupid shit off the cuff. Let's keep going. When an individual uses posts, public videos, or digital profiles as a vehicle to execute a course of conduct intended to cause severe emotional distress, financial harm, or safety fears, the speech loses all constitutional protection under the First Amendment, United States versus Ossinger, Jesus, 753 F3D 939, 2024. Oh, wait, that goes to another one. Sorry, hold on. I'm misreading these because of the way these are laid out. God damn it, these should be laid out as individual tweets, and then the next tweet should be posted to the next one. As far as I'm concerned. Formatting! We hate Twitter up in here. Okay. Have a good night. Okay. The court established that cyberstalking is legally classified as conduct, not speech, when an individual uses post, public videos, or digital profiles as a vehicle to execute a course of conduct intended to cause severe emotional distress. So, for example, like, let's pretend I had some kids, and I posted pictures of those kids, which you shouldn't fucking do, on the internet under a private account, like a private Facebook account, right? So nobody but my family members and people I know or whatever have access to this. And somebody who hates me posing as, like, took a picture of somebody else I know and their profile picture, made it their Facebook profile picture on a new account, and sent me a friend request, and I accepted that friend request thinking it was somebody it wasn't. Right? This is something that people do. I accept that friend request, and now that person can see all of those things. So they grab screenshots or pictures of my kids, then on social media, on alternate, maybe anonymous accounts, start using pictures of my kids and my kids' names as their profile pictures. That is an example. Or they start sending me pictures of my own kids talking about how they're going to do bad things to them. Or they just start sending me messages saying, like, from anonymous accounts or whatever, or account claiming to be somebody that they may or may not actually be. Right? All of those things constitute harassment. Even just going onto a live stream and saying, I'm going to go look up this person's whole life. I'm going to go find people that, like, other people in this person's town must hate them. I'm going to go find all those people and talk to them and gather all the people who hate this person in one place. Like, my fucking God, man. What are you doing? What are you fucking doing? There is an intent. That is a behavior. That is not, I just said something. That is not passive. That is not an accident. That is intentional. Directly fucking intentional. Hi, blonde one. How did your meetup with EMP go? Good, I hope. The defendant posted text, in this federal cyber stalking case, the defendant posted text and media online to intentionally distress a victim. The federal courts affirmed that cyber stalking statutes restrict harassing conduct rather than legitimate expression. Yeah, what is the difference between harassing content and legitimate expression? Context. Context. That's the difference. The difference is context. What contextually, what the fuck are you doing and why are you doing it? What is the circumstances under which this thing has happened? The court maintained that the First Amendment does not grant individual licenses to systematically destroy a private citizen's peace of mind, privacy, or safeguard under the guise of posting content. You don't get to make somebody's private life your content. That's not how it works. Your commentary about somebody's private life, just because you stumbled, just because you could Google it, just because you got access to their account, is not free game. That's not how that works. That's not even socially reasonable, let alone legally reasonable. Like, that's absurd. That'd be an absurd thing to fucking do. Empire Storage. This case is used by prosecutors to defeat free speech claims in harassment cases. The Supreme Court established that the Constitution does not protect speech or writing when it is an integral part of conduct that violates a criminal statute. If you are threatening people, if you are harassing people, you are violating criminal statutes. And so your speech is no longer protected. It's the same reason why your privacy is not always protected when there is a reasonable warrant that has been legally issued to view your things, or a subpoena. You do not have blanket freedoms of privacy and blanket freedoms to do whatever you want. We live in a society. And so because we live in a society, you don't get to necessarily be private when you give people a reason to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Now, just somebody saying, I don't want you to have access to my stuff, my private shit, is not a reason for people to say, yeah, well, what are you fucking up to? That's not reasonable. Because the answer is you have no fucking clue. It might be nothing, it could be everything. The papers that I was served, papers that I was served, papers that I was served. Yeah, exactly. If you're trying to find someone to serve them paperwork, you're not stalking them. The context matters. If I'm like, hey, I have to deliver this paperwork, this legal paperwork to somebody, you're not fucking stalking them by being like, I need to find out where this person fucking lives. Because you're trying to give them the paperwork. Let's say the situation is reversed. There's a person in one place constantly and harassing walk-bys. Does it count as harassment for you as the legal definition? I think not. Not alone. Let's put it this way. Is catcalling harassment? Because what we've done here is we've shifted the type of harassment we're talking about. All hail the Hobston state of chaos. Hobstain? I don't know if I pronounced it right. Whatever. You missed it. Somebody suggested Goblination. Like capital, like goblin, but the N gets capitalized into the word nation. And I'm like, fuck, that's good. You could definitely get arrested, but yeah, that can happen. They arrested someone back in March for stalking while they were attempting to serve papers. Yeah. Mistakes and these things can fucking happen for sure. Absolutely. And there are things, that's one of the reasons why there's this process to determine whether or not this is actually happening. Because just filing the paperwork alone isn't enough to establish that a thing has happened, right? That's what the courts are for. Somebody can get arrested for doing something that they never did, and they are then later acquitted, and they're never found to be doing the thing. But sorry, let's talk about this a little bit more. Let me go back. If somebody's catcalling, right? If a guy is sitting around and he's catcalling every woman that walks by, what he's engaged in is sexual harassment, right? Can swamp witches become citizens in Goblin Nation? Yes. Yes, absolutely. is definitely an on purpose. Yeah. Hey, welcome. Welcome. This is getting cut off a little bit. There you go. So, yes, somebody. What if he's calling both genders? It's still sexual harassment. Doesn't matter. The gender is irrelevant. So what that would be is considered. Then it's not really sexual harassment. It's not sexual harassment to say something sexual towards somebody of your own gender that is unwanted. Why not? So a lot of the times that would be considered disturbing the peace and you would get arrested for it. You likely wouldn't get arrested for sexual harassment. Is every instance of catcalling sexual harassment? Yeah, it's catcalling. Catcalling by definition is... Just yelling at somebody isn't. Just yelling something obscene depends on what the obscene thing is to consider it sexual or not. But catcalling is sexual in nature. How do you catcall somebody? Catcalling is about, like, picking people up, and there are some people who like being catcalled. Yes, but you need to establish that person likes being catcalled before you start doing it. Otherwise, it's harassment. You could, however, do non-sexual catcalling. That wouldn't be catcalling. Yeah, if it's consensual, it's not catcalling. Yeah, if you're engaged in, like, a sexual banter that you've both agreed to, it is not, and whether or not that takes place in public or not, it might be indecent. It might not be socially acceptable, but it would not constitute catcalling. Yeah, if it's not sexual harassment, it's not catcalling. Catcalling, it's just because if it's murder, right? Just because it's killing it doesn't mean it's murder, right? You need... Yeah, maybe don't yell nice tits to people just walking down the street. Yeah. If you sit at a bench and you say nice ass to everyone who walks by, you're harassing everybody. Yeah, that is not just regular harassment. That is sexual harassment. Yes. That is sexual harassment. Yeah. Yeah, why would the gender matter? That's a good question. Why would the gender matter? Irrelevant. Yelling and commenting on people's... on people is generally harassment. Hey, baby, you look like you have a high Chesh elo. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. If anything, catcalling is just fucking annoying. People should just not do it because it's fucking annoying. Like, but that's the point. The point is that catcalling makes people uncomfortable, right? Hey, girl. As the rest of society has not consented to the scene between you and your partner, don't do it in public. Yeah, that's a whole... Exhibitionism is an entirely different conversation that we can have, but maybe not today. PDA, public displays of affection. Some societies are more okay with it than others. Sometimes it depends on how far it goes. Sometimes it depends on what exactly you're engaged in. Anyway, catcalling would generally be a different issue as well anyway. So catcalling on its own is already considered sexual harassment, but if you were to like say call the police to make it stop, the person likely wouldn't be charged for sexual harassment. What they would likely get charged with is like just public indecency or like being a nuisance in general. Like, they likely wouldn't even be, like, they'd have to get called on a handful of times before the police would actually do anything about it. Right? This is State versus Cooney. A legal principle. This case specifically tackled whether a defendant can claim free speech when communicating publicly about a person who holds a restraining order against them. The court ruled that once a valid protective order is in place, the defendant's right to speak about or track the victim is legally curtailed. The state has a compelling interest in protecting victims of harassment, and a protective order overrides a creator's desire to broadcast about the protected person. If you have a restraining order, don't stream about the person who has a fucking restraining order against you. If you get a restraining order, did Aaron get arrested? No, not yet. Catcalling isn't repeatable. Yes, it is. Catcalling is absolutely repeatable. If you sit in the same place where you know one person goes by every day to get to work, yet being the operative, yet. So, for example, you can harass, yeah, you just because you're not harassing an individual doesn't mean you're not harassing, because you're harassing everybody, right? And a harassment, it does not mean it has to be one individual, right? You can do harassment against everyone. So, like, for example, if you're running around flashing people, you're harassing them. You don't have to target one person for it to be considered harassment. It also doesn't help that like catcalling, for by definition, is a harassing behavior, right? So again, we're back to murder is unjustified by definition. So if you've killed somebody, you didn't necessarily murder anyone. Also, just to point out, her conduct here is not harassment towards Aaron. So the legal definition does not cover flashing or catcalling, really. Kind of. So the legal definition for this is the legal definition for criminal harassment, right? However, if you're running around flashing people, you're going to make another person reasonably, in all the circumstances, to fear for their safety. So if you're making someone feel reasonably fearful for their safety, just because it's multiple people does not mean it doesn't apply. I feel like you're getting caught up in the definition of catcalling. Your contention is the definition of catcalling, not the definition of harassment at that point. Is one person about someone a catcalling then? What do you think catcalling is? Sexual harassment has a low bar. Yes, it does. Sexual harassment has a very, very, very low bar. There are behaviors that people that are sexually harassing that people don't even like clock. Don't even clock it. Likely somebody who is doing like something public like that to a lot of people is going to get curtailed before it reaches the level like for other reasons, before it reaches the level of them being pulled in for criminal harassment, right? Yeah, if I see somebody flash somebody else, I'm also going to be in fear for my safety. They don't have to flash me directly for me to be concerned about that person being a threat to me, right? I'll be right back. Ugh. I almost missed my chair. Yeah, there's an escalation, right? So the question we can come down to is, do we think that Aaron and the company and such have engaged in criminal harassment at this point? I think I would say yes. This is just my opinion, by the way. Not sure if I understand calling. In my mind, it's someone calling someone else's physique out against their will out loud, maybe repeatedly. I wouldn't say a bad compliment is immediately catcalling. It doesn't matter whether the compliment is good or bad. Okay, so this is a great vein. This is a great vein of conversation because I think this gets misunderstood easily often. If I hold a door for somebody because they're a woman, I'm being sexist. Why? Because I'm only holding it open because they're a woman. I am specifically targeting somebody and treating them a specific way because of their gender. Now, a specific woman might have wanted that or might have liked that or might be fond of that behavior, but you don't know that. They're a stranger. And you're only doing it because they're a woman. So you're engaged in misogynistic behavior. Right? Period. End of sentence. Right? Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily did anything bad to that person. I do hold doors open for women and elderly. That's how I've been taught by my mama and dada. Well, your parents taught you within the patriarchy. Congratulations, you've been taught by the patriarchy to do a behavior that seems like that has been presented to you as a polite gesture. Right? See, this is a very big difference. This is a Canadianism that you'll see. Hold the door open for everyone. I hold the door open for everyone. This is a very much a Canadian thing. Canadians just hold the door open for everybody regardless. Right? And sometimes if you see somebody carrying something heavy, you might run ahead of them to open the door for them because that might be you're trying to be helpful. You're not opening or closing a door because of their gender, because of your gender the gender implications. Is this guy holding the door open for you because you're a woman? It's misogynistic. It doesn't mean they mean anything bad by it. It doesn't mean they're intending on doing anything mean to you or even that they're looking down to you. They might just be trying to be polite. And that might be exactly the whole intent. But the entire thing is the intent of that individual man is irrelevant because the reason they're doing it is because you're a woman. Period. End of sentence. Which means it is an entirely gender-based gesture which makes it misogynistic in the scenario that we're using. Now you can do it the other way. You could do it the other way and say, like, what if a woman's holding it open for the man? Well, are they holding it open because it's a man and they've been taught that this is a specific way you need to treat this gender? Do you see how problematic that I was taught to do this because it's the polite thing to do. It's the polite thing to do if you do it for everybody. If you only do it for one group of people, you're not exactly being polite, are you? We had a female king. Not a queen, she was a king, so there's an extra layer of respect. You are not doing it out of respect. You're doing it because that's what you were told to do. You already said that. So you've already admitted that there is no thought or respect behind it. You were taught that this was a polite thing to do, and so you do it. And then you run around telling everybody else that this is the polite thing to do. Is it? Why? Why is it a polite thing to do to specifically treat one group of people worse than the other? Because you're treating men worse than women by doing this. I do respect women more than men. Why? I am an American living in Canada and hold the door open for everyone. Does this mean that I am a Canadian living in a... It means that you're fitting into Canadian culture. Very well done. Because we're better. Because women are better. Period. The end. I need more tea. Okay. I want to make sure I didn't miss the. I didn't want to. Did I miss the answer? Why do we like? Why do you like women? Why do you respect women more than men? I didn't know you held the door open out west. I thought it was more of a maritime thing. Yeah, we do it all the way across. It's pretty common. You guys are jumping ahead in the conversation. You're just trying to show me that there might not be no ill intent in holding the door. I know there might not be any ill intent in holding the door. I'm saying the behavior itself is regardless of the intent of the person holding the door. If you're only holding the door open because of the gender of the person you're holding the door open for, you're engaging in sexist behavior. Did I miss it? I missed it. No, I'm rolling up. I'm rolling up. Yeah, I think I got it. It's okay. Settle down. If you're doing something because of somebody's gender, whether or not it's like you were taught that way or not is irrelevant. If you're engaging in a behavior specifically because of the gender you've assumed of the person you're engaging in the behavior with, you're engaged in gender-based behavior. How would a person... Okay, let's see. How would a person I'm holding the door... Wait, how would a person I'm holding the door would know I'm doing it for their gender? Well, I asked you. The person going through the door is irrelevant. Who's ever, like, benefiting, quote unquote, from the door being held open for their behalf is not what we're talking about. That's a different thing. Different conversation. We are different. So it's also okay to treat people differently. Well, that's on an individual basis. Why would you make that off of gender basis? It sounds like what you're doing is you're accepting that this is a gender-based behavior, but you're not willing to accept that you're trying to justify it. Right? You don't have to justify or not justify the behavior. I'm just describing what the behavior is, period. If, for example, yeah, we accept that this is gender-based. Now, so not every behavior that is that is directed at a specific gender is in a bubble bad. Like, you haven't necessarily done anything morally wrong. Stop justifying. Stop justifying it. You're getting distracted. Stop justifying. This is just regular black tea. Right? So, just because, yeah, so any behavior can be dissected in this way. Right? And any individual behavior in a bubble is not necessarily, I feel like I'm going crazy a bit. That's okay. There's a lot going on. Settle down. Comment, people. Settle down. Settle down. You're overwhelming them with too much. Too much. One step at a time. Baby steps. Not every behavior, not every individual behavior that is directed at a specific gender or at a race or at a minority of any variety is inherently on its own a bad behavior. Right? So holding the door for women, specifically, does not mean that an individual instance of this happening is harming the woman who the door is being held for. Do I need diagrams? Should we bring up diagrams? I can do that. Yeah, Reza's got it. We're gonna get there. It's okay. It's okay. We can get there. Let me open a thing so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Do I have a pen still, or does my pen get? Oh no, I still have it. Yeah, I hold the door open for white people because they have an extra layer of respect due to their role in society. Is that racist? I'm just being nice. Yeah, that's a good example. All right, hold on. Let me get up a blackboard for us real quick. I immediately regret this decision. I've made this blackboard way too big. It's okay. It's fine. Do you have an apple? Okay. Do I have a situation where this is available? Hold on. Oh, get out of here. Why are you still here? Go away. I'm just seeing if I need to pull up a different thing here. I'll show cursor, change this to, there we go. Okay. So we got a blackboard. I'd say not racist. It's the opposite. Maybe reasoning might be racist, but doing it, I don't feel it is. Okay. So we can all agree that, for example, let's say we have a, come here, you. All right, we have a door, right? We've got a person going towards the door. And we have a person holding the door open. All right? If I hold the door open for the disabled only, is that ableist? Yes. So this is, the answer is yes. If you're doing a behavior specifically because of an assumption of incapability that you've made on another person, yes, your reasoning is bad and ableist and you should feel bad. You should just hold the, Jesus Christ, just hold the door open if it's convenient. If it's not convenient and the person is too far away, don't hold the door open, regardless of this person. If you are making decisions based on who you think this person coming through the door is, your process of thinking this is wrong. Period. Whether this person is, you think they're disabled, whether you think they're a woman, whether you think they're a man, whether you think that doesn't matter. If this person here is making an assumption about this person here, and that assumption is the only reason they're holding the door open for this person, then your thinking pattern around this decision is bad. Period. Regardless of whatever the situation is. Whether it's racially based, whether it's whether it's disability based, whether it's gender based. Yesterday, I held the door open for a cleaner. They were to carry up a vacuum cleaner and some other cleaning buckets. The reason I did it was because the door was heavy and the door would auto lock. Their hands were full. This doesn't mean don't help people. Just you're making assumptions and then you're doing a behavior on your own based on your assumptions about another person. That is solely based on something that they cannot control. Right? You can't control whether or not you are disabled. You either are or you aren't. You cannot control whether you are white, black, yellow. You can't control that. You either are or you aren't. You can't control whether you're a man or a woman. Well, with a little bit of money and a little bit of work, you might be able to tweak that one a little bit. What you don't get to decide is whether or not you're trans. You get to decide whether or not you transition and to what degree and how you engage in society, but you do not get to decide whether or not you're trans. You either are or you aren't. If somebody needs help, that's changing the scenario. Nobody said anything about bad, right? Raiden, you're getting distracted. Did I say that holding the door open was a bad behavior to engage in? Nope. I didn't say that at all. Res for 5 says, here is when you should hold the door open for someone when you hear, yo, can you hold that door open for me, mate? Thanks. Yeah, if somebody yells at you, hey, can you hold the door open? You can look and then decide whether or not you want to hold the door open for that person. If that person looks like an asshole, maybe it's somebody you hate, you slam the door in their fucking face. And then lock it from the other side. The thought process is bad, not the action. The action of holding the door open is mundane. It's mundane or considered generally a good thing to do. It's generally considered a positive behavior to hold the door open for somebody. The reasoning about why you're holding the door open is what's problematic or not. If it is correct to hold the door open for someone because their hands are full, should it not be also correct to hold the door open for someone with no hands? Maybe. Because the decision to hold the door open should not necessarily be based, again, on assumptions you're making about somebody else. The thought process behind treating a person A one way and a person B another way as they are different individuals is not bad. The flip from societal standard to each individual scenario. Right? If their characteristics actually affect their ability to open the door, then it is relevant. Yes. Sure, yeah, I'll give you that. Women and elderly are generally capable of opening doors themselves. So are people with no hands. Somebody with no hands is probably actually more adept at opening a door without the use of their hands than somebody whose hands are full. It's an extension of the same mindset. No. Remember, the initial reason for holding the door open was because they're a woman. That was the initial hypothetical. If you are holding the door the only reason you're holding the door open for someone is because you believe that they are a woman, that behavior and the reason you're doing it is misogynistic in nature. It's sexist in nature. Res for 10. Res. The thought process behind the behavior and the admission as it to the impetus of the behavior reveals a shaky foundation for other lines of thought leading for other potential more harmful actions. This is also true. If you're already doing something that is considered mundane or generally helpful because somebody is a woman or because somebody is disabled or because somebody is bleh, your reasoning is faulty. What other behaviors are you engaged in that you are unknowingly doing that is harmful as opposed to being mundane? You added that after. We can look, it's there. And again, it doesn't matter. Not only does it because you have extra respect for women, it doesn't matter. It's still misogynistic. If anything, that makes it more so like a gender bias, right? It's still sexism, changes nothing. And again, why? I'm sorry, I'm stepping on Dapper's dino toes. How, like, would it sound silly to you if I say I respect people with long hair because they have long hair? Does that not sound, does the reasoning there not sound circular? I respect people with short hair more than I respect people with long hair because they have short hair. Does that not sound silly? Can patriarchy and culture be separated? Oh. Yeah, that would be a... Shut up, Tom. What we need to do is set it up so the person holding the door does not, if the person they are holding the door for is male or female, has their hands full. There are other reasons to hold the door open or closed. Right? Well, the question becomes okay, so Feline said it is still sexism, which is bad. Okay, well, why is sexism bad? Right? What about sexism makes it bad? The behavior itself, again, the door being held open is a mundane action. Right? This is a mundane action. You're not harming anybody. You're not necessarily doing anybody any extra good, but you're not harming anybody, usually. In general circumstances. I'm sure we can think of an example where it would be. Let's not get distracted. If you're behaving in a mundane behavior because of sexism, is the behavior bad? Okay, well, fine. You change it. Make it ageist. Switch the other way. Okay, if you hold the door open, the only reason you hold the door open for somebody is because you think they're old. You're just being ageist then. Maybe the door is on a plane. Some elderly people hold the door open for me. Yeah, the answer is that you should not. The reasoning is the part that's problematic, not the action that you've decided to take. So, like, for example, if we go to, let's take dating for an example. Let's take paying the bill. Let's say you take multiple actions. You pay the bill, We're gonna say man pays the bill, man drives the car, and man opens the doors. It's a door, don't worry about it. All right? Say you go on a date. Are any of these behaviors bad or wrong? I don't think so. I don't think it's wrong for a man to pay a bill on a date. I don't think it's the man is doing anything wrong. I don't think a woman is doing anything wrong. Is it wrong for the man to drive? I don't think it's wrong for the man to drive to the date, pick up the date, go drive to the location, and then drive and drop the date off and go home. I don't think it's wrong. There's no wrong behavior being done. Right? Holding the door, opening the door in the car, like getting out, going around, opening the car door, closing the car door, going to the restaurant, opening the door. I don't think any of these things are wrong. None of these behavior, these are all mundane. These are all mundane behaviors. Right? So if I change this, if we say, we flip this around and say the woman drives, the woman pays the bill, and the woman holds the door open. Has the woman done anything wrong in this case? If they reverse the gender, like if they reverse the gender roles? Is it wrong for the woman to pay the bill? Is it wrong for the woman to pick the man up and then drive and then open the door for the man and then open the door, like open the car door for the man and then open the door to the restaurant? Shh, Rez, you can't just say shit like that. Rez has got it figured out. Poor guy. Hey, Sly, good to see you. Who did I upset this time? Oh, you know, everyone. The huge. Here's the thing. If I say your reasoning, none of these things are bad, right? All of these behaviors are all mundane behaviors. Nobody's doing anything wrong by engaging in these behaviors. It's the why is the woman doing this? Why is the man doing this? How do other people view this? If you're a man and you view the woman for doing all this thing, if you think lesser of this man, you're the problem. If you're a woman and you see this happening, and you see a woman doing these things, and you think lesser of the man, then you are the problem. All right? If you're the man in this scenario, and you're doing this because you think it's expected of you, because you're the man, you need to check your reasoning. That's good. That sounds like a healthy relationship. If both people are happy, content, and treating each other the way that each other wants to be treated, good. Fantastic. Who is Chesh's hair pissed off? Literally everyone. You guys are jumping ahead. Focus up. This is why we don't get anywhere. None of these, if the man is paying the bill because he thinks he's supposed to, if the man views driving and paying the bill and opening the door as a status symbol, or thinks that the woman can't, or he has to let the woman participate, now the mentality's a problem. A man needs to support a family does not equal a woman mustn't support the family. Sure, but that's still problematic. If you force an expectation based on a gender, it's a problem. Doesn't matter what that behavior is. It's the reasoning that's the problem, not the behavior. If you say men need to do this and you're putting this, whatever this is, expectation on all men, simply because they were born with a dick, your reasoning is bad, period, end of sentence. If you say women must do X, Y, you're basing it off of their gender, not basing things off of their capabilities as an individual. Full-on relationships fall apart because the man doesn't like that the woman makes more money than he does, which is an inherently sexist problem. I have my own view on dating. Dating is also like a specific thing. When it comes to splitting the bill for dating, I'm like, who invited who out? Did you invite me out? I've been invited out on dates and then paid for the whole date myself. Color me a little unimpressed. There's also a difference between a first date and like someone you're already in a situationship with. My favorite is when people have asked me out on dates, I said yes, and then they didn't know what to do about it. They're like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh, you didn't actually want to go on a date with me? Okay, well, then we don't have to. It's fine. I don't care. Restaurants suck. Yeah, I'm relatively not impressed with the restaurants most of the time. What part of your point do I think I'm... What point are you making that you think I'm missing? Okay, we got time. Shit, I didn't think I'd get this far. This is literally... I've literally had people say that to me. Out loud. To my face. And I'm like, why are we here? Let Radiant answer. There's a delay. Take your time. Remember when I said I accidentally to show? This is what I mean. That's what these things are for. Went out on a date only to figure out I wasn't into women. Oh, that is disappointing. Unfortunate. I had one date that went so well that at the end she asked, so when am I moving in with you? Ooh. I want to know what Raiden thinks I don't understand. I could see that as a red flag. As a moving a little fast. Dating is woke anyway. How are my plants coming along? Very good. Except that they were drowning a little bit last night. Orange Dot for 3 said, more silver for the Goblin House! For the Goblin House! Thank you. Greatly appreciated. You're 14. Oh god, dating at 14. Oh. I think that's one thing that I think people overlook when they talk about dating is the age groups of which people are dating. God damn. I have a joke. I'm mostly joking. I have some reasoning behind it, but it's mostly a joke that people in their 20s shouldn't date. Or shouldn't be in relationships. Sorry. Date all you want. Fuck around and find out. But like don't don't get too like invested. So Rez is kind of making a point, but I'll say something a little bit different, adjacent, let's call it. If you find yourself stuck in a position where it's either people agree with me or they don't understand what I'm saying, you've fallen into a logical or like a reasoning trap, a discussion trap. Because people do not have to not understand what you're saying to agree with you or disagree with you, right? And so if you accidentally fall into this pit of either people agree with me or they don't understand what I'm saying, then you found yourself in a place where you're the only person in the room who you think everybody's dumb. You think everybody is stupid but you. That's the result of that. That might not be what you're consciously intending, but that is the position you're taking. And that is a position you do not want to find yourself in. Here's dating 101. The first 100 dates sucked. I like that. That's good. Sometimes dating requires a little bit of outside of the box thinking. Did I take somebody on a date? I had somebody take me on a date one time. They asked me out on a date. I agreed. They didn't expect me to agree. I agreed. And then I was friends with this guy. And so we just went and did things we had already always done. And there was literally nothing different about it. And I was like, okay, bye. And then we never spoke of it again. What are we doing? Yeah. Yeah, there's stuff like that. And like it's just an unfortunate, like, it's something that people fall into really easily by accident. It's usually not intentional. I'm moving, so I'm gonna start taking these down. So while we wait, I'm gonna take these down. Then Netflix and chill. Option 3. Sometimes it's also like, as the creator in the space, sometimes you have to keep in mind that like people are trying to communicate to you in text while you're speaking. So between the delay, between the amount that I can spew out of my face is a lot faster than the amount somebody can chat, in the amount of time that somebody can like put together something a little bit more cohesive. So I do want to like leave space. Like if I misunderstood what you've said, I like, please take the time to let me know what I've misunderstood. Because it's very possible that like I missed something in translation, right? Let alone if you've got language barriers, which is definitely also a thing. Language barriers are real. If somebody says they want to Netflix and chill with me, back when Netflix was newer, I would have just assumed that they literally just wanted to sit around and watch Netflix. And then I would have been like, why? What do I need you for to do that? Okay, here we go. Oh, good. Hold on one second. Let me grab this last one and we'll take a look. Hey, Reza Miner! Enjoy your time in the cheese mine, my friend. Alright. Let's take a look-see. Look at how different it looks in here. Crazy, right? The echo really bad? Alright, let's read this out. So what you're missing is, okay, first off, bad way to start. I would translate, hold on. I would translate the continuation between treating others as individuals differently to adjust who they are, treating introverts versus extroverts, for example, and when translating the same standard further to move wide population now makes it bad. I would say individual reasoning might be bad, but not different treating feels bad. And it's not I'm closing the doors for men when I see them, but I want to show my appreciation towards elderly and women with this gesture. 100 levels of context. Okay. So let's walk through this one step at a time. I'm going to copy and paste these into a thing so I can read them better. Versus extroverts. All right. Tell me what I'm missing. Yes. Okay, so let's go through this. Okay, so what you're missing is what you think I'm missing. You want to show me extra respect, right? Because I'm a woman. So you shouldn't make statements about what I am missing. I don't think I'm missing anything. You think I'm missing something. And I'm saying, okay, so tell me what you think I'm missing. So what you say is, what I think you're missing. If we're going to be picky about how we treat people based on their genders. Right? Okay. I would translate the continuation between treating others as individuals differently to adjust to who they are. Treating introverts and extroverts, for example. Okay, using introverts and extroverts is a bad example. And the reason it's a bad example is because you cannot tell whether someone is an introvert or an extrovert by looking at them. Right? You would only know if someone is an introvert or an extrovert if you have some kind of relationship. Right? This is the only way you would know. You'd have to have some kind of relationship, some kind of, like, it doesn't have to be like a positive relationship. You would have to know who the person is to be able to know that, right? So you don't want to use introverts or extroverts as an example in this situation. It's one of the reasons why talking about somebody being disabled is not necessarily a good example either, because you can't see every disability, right? It's like I only hold doors open for women who are virgins. How the fuck do you know? Did they look like a whore? Like, what are you talking about? Because you can only be one or the other. You can only be a virgin or a whore. There's no in between. Right? This is back to like this issue of language and patriarchal nonsense. What's a word for a woman who's not a virgin but doesn't sleep around? There isn't one. It doesn't exist. The fact that word doesn't exist is indicative of the problem. Right? So you don't want to use introverts and extroverts as your example. It's a misnomer. It brings up a whole different issue. When translating the same standard further to a more wide population now makes it bad. So you're talking about the difference between an individual interaction versus the population, how the population views something on a whole. Am I understanding that correctly? Yeah, pregnant lady. Valid, Letty. A pregnant woman would be a woman that you would definitively know is not a virgin. Probably. The one unlikely circumstance. Visibly a bigot? Yeah, no, you could visibly be a bigot. Not every bigot is going to be visible, but you can definitely be a visible bigot. If you're wearing a fucking Nazi flag on your sleeve, yeah, I'm not going to hold the door open for you. In fact, I'm probably going to lock the door behind me. In fact, I might hit you with a brick. Get the fuck out of here. I might throw things at you. You can definitively be a visibly... You wouldn't be able to tell in mundane circumstances, though. It's okay, we can wait. There's always gonna be waiting in these because the text. A Trump hat, yeah. Trump hat would be a good one. Nope. Those bricks did like a... Kinda. There's not 0 individual level to level 100 a group. On the way, you have smaller diversions, like treating friends, groups of different individuals. Well, you're talking about different contexts. You're not talking about different scenario. Like, well, I guess you're using scenarios and context. You're changing the context, right, of holding the door. You're saying on an individual level, it may or may not be okay to hold the door, but nobody's saying it's not okay to hold the door. The mundane act of holding a door open for somebody is generally considered a positive thing to do, right? We all agree. Generally, with no other information, 0 other information, if you see somebody holding a door for anybody else, you're not like, oh, look at that asshole. It is generally considered a helpful or mundane action. There's no moral issue with the behavior of holding the door open, right? Regardless of the individuals involved, whether they're friends with each other, whether they're not friends with each other, whether they're enemies, whether it's what the reasoning is behind it, is the door itself being held open by one individual for another individual is not the contention. So all of the contexts around those individuals and their relationships with each other is irrelevant. So yes, we can agree that there's 1,000 billion infinite different scenarios that you can come up with. The same logic of one person applies to a small group, to a bigger group, to even bigger group, and when some are okay with the reasoning, some are wrong with their reasoning, because they're not the same thing. You can't apply the logic the same way to an individual one-on-one basis as you can to a group. So, for example, if there's only ever one racist person, then racism is not a problem. Right? Racism is about the structure of society. Right? So if one individual is being racist to another individual, and that one individual is the only racist that exists, their opinion doesn't fucking matter. The opinion about racists in general isn't really doesn't really matter at all, right? It's the systematic problem, right? So you don't... Racism overarching as a system is only an issue when you have lots of it. Although that individual is still a problematic person, but it's not the problem isn't racism anymore. The problem is that one guy fucking sucks. It doesn't mean it's not like that individual is still a problem. Right? So if you say, like, holding the door open for someone because they're a woman is a problem because of your reasoning behind it, not because you held the door open. You're already treating the girls in your friend group differently, though. right? Because if you're not, then you've got a different problem on your hands. Oh, Rez, are you getting frustrated? Rez does not have the patience for this, which is valid. It's very slow, step by step. Very, very slow. Cut back some overgrown weeds and branches and found a bus stop. Oh! She found a whole ass bus. If I invite Rez on and he comes in here, I'm gonna get this. He's gonna get the stream taken down. The Rez has been right. What Rez is getting at is what Rez has said in his comments that have actually gone through, because whatever, YouTube is stopping him, has been 100% on fucking point. He's 100% right. He's gotten to the conclusion and he's like scraped away all of the fucking conversation to hit the fucking nail on the head. Yeah, your example is good, for sure. No. I get what they're saying. I understand what Raiden is getting at. Radian. I understand what they're getting at. It's just not a good argument because it doesn't work like that. Becoming a friend needs earning my respect, and between two people I respect, excluding individual behavioral differences, I treat them the same no matter man or what. You already said you treated women differently because you respect them more, though. It's okay, just focus on me. Don't worry about the comment sec. Don't worry about these guys. Just focus on what I'm saying. You're welcome to change that behavior. Like, you're welcome to change your mind. Yes. Victoria, yes. Absolutely is. I'm gonna lose my mind. Holy shit. It's okay. Rez, do you have faith in me? Do you trust me? You already said you engage in behavior of holding the door open to appreciate women more because you have more respect for them and to indicate that you have more respect for them. Yeah, what do I know? All right, let me read it again. Becoming a friend needs earning my respect, and between two people I respect, excluding individual behavioral differences, I treat them the same, no matter if they're a man or a woman. So, like, once they become your friend. Okay, so what? Are you saying that if a woman becomes your friend, you will treat them worse by fiat? Or you just treat men poorly until they become your friend? You treat men like they're lesser. They're less deserving. Or you think women should be shown more respect because they're treated worse in general in society? I don't know. Whatever the reasoning is. Whatever the reasoning is at this point, it is clearly gender-based. Therefore, it's sexism. Whether it's sexism towards women or sexism towards men, it doesn't really matter. Result is the same. The question is now that you know it's sexism, what are you going to do about it? You agree it's sexism. Treating women like a monolith, yeah, that's a bit of a problem as well. That's a different issue. Is treating women as a monolith and treating men as individuals, right? Men as individuals earn your respect or they don't, as opposed to women who are at this level as a homogenous group, which they're not. Women are a homogenous group. They're all individuals as well, right? Right, so then, yeah, okay, so then it's an issue with ageism and it's an issue with sexism. So what are you gonna do about it? Assuming women are deserving of a level of respect in the first place is already treating women as a homogenous group, and then also specifically, purposefully treating men worse because they're men is a problem. Yes, Rez. I see you. I see you. I know. Welcome to Circle Jerk. As soon as I said you're treating men worse by default, he suddenly understood. Imagine that. It's almost like there's a little bit of, almost like there's sexism here or something. Yeah, I don't know if respect is the right word, but that's a different. Yeah, no, Smitty's got a good point. Calling what we're talking about respect might be an issue. No, I don't treat them worse. I don't treat them better. No, you treat them worse. You definitively, you've already described that you purposefully do not. If you think that this is an okay thing to do, why would it be a problem if it's stated out loud? Congratulations, you now agree. It took us 40 minutes. It's not respect, it's condescension. Yeah! That's a good word for it. You're condescending to engage in a behavior. You're lowering yourself to engage in a behavior on behalf of somebody based on their gender. You gotta think about your life. Yeah, you do! Yes! We made it! We did it! I'm gonna go ahead and call this successful. No, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly that. If you want to come on sometime, we can schedule a time you can come on and we can talk about it for sure. For sure. I'm totally down for that. I host people all the time. It's gonna have to wait until after I'm done moving, but we can absolutely do that. That's the point. You should absolutely think about this and reconsider and potentially change your mind. Absolutely. 100%. People get taught. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is absolutely what I was talking about near the beginning of the stream when I said people engage in behaviors that they are doing intuitively or because something that they've taught or it's habitual. And so when you ask them to explain what they're doing and why they're doing it, they struggle to explain those things. And they're going to struggle to explain those things because they never thought about it before. They haven't considered this. They haven't, and it's not that they necessarily haven't thought about the behavior in general, is that they haven't considered these multiple perspectives, where there's other perspectives of the way your behavior is being interpreted, and the reason why your behavior is being interpreted in this fashion, right? So somebody holds the door open, some woman is just like sneers at them, And they're like, what the fuck is this lady's problem? Not understanding the contextual basis for why a woman might react that way. And then they go onto Reddit and go become incels. And then they fucking just hate women, blah, 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 blah. And they justify this circular fucking nonsense. And it devolves into the male loneliness epidemic. And then we have fucking Andrew Tate. This is goddamn fucking... Never help anyone ever. No good deed goes unpunished. Never leave your house. Took way too long to get to a simple, do I need to rethink this? Yeah, no, valid. If you're actually being considerate, then you need to think about what you're doing. If your intention is to be considerate, if you're trying to be helpful, right? Welcome to Goblin Nation, where we do spend time dissecting these things. Again, the behavior itself, not necessarily bad, not necessarily problematic. Now imagine if we're talking about a problematic behavior, right? Something that causes somebody harm. As opposed to holding a door open, which doesn't really hurt anybody generally. In a bubble. Alright. That was a great stream. I think that's a good stopping point. We'll come back to this. We'll talk about it again another time. But we have been live for nearly 3 hours. God damn. You remember when I said I accidentally'd a new show? Yeah, welcome to Circle Jerk, where I've accidentally'd a new show. Come and join us again. We'll be back. I don't know when I'm going to be live again, though. My calendar's not up anymore. Look at this place. It's fucking empty. Hello. Hello. Look at that shit. Male loneliness epidemic, you mean being at peace? God, I fucking wish. I wish the guys who were like, male loneliness epidemic were at peace. Good lord. Or do you mean the women? Because that would be nice. I need a cigarette. Yo, that will be the way it goes. How can I reach out to schedule something? You can use the community tab. There's the community tab. You can also find me on Blue Sky, link down below. But if you use the community tab to chat, people will be there. Be nice, guys. Play nice. Rez, you're not allowed to go there. You'll have an aneurysm. The Velociraptor? The Nickelodeon, the YTV thing. Puck's urn is still right there. It hasn't gone anywhere yet. I don't know where it's gonna go in the new house, though. He's still right there. He hasn't moved. Alright, thank you for joining me. I'm gonna get on out of here. Thank you so much. Consider becoming a member if you like this kind of content. Go check out Debate Hub because these condensed into videos are also going up over there if you're interested in that. If you like discussions and you like debate and you want to debate, head over to Debate Hub Official. You will find all kinds of debates, discussions about all kinds of topics. We've had Flat Earth discussions and debates. We've talked about the Bible and its relation to the Flat Earth, which was really interesting. Cult behaviors, politics, all kinds of stuff. Manosphere, guys. Oh, God. No. They won't... People usually, the way we engage here is people will try to generally meet your energy. So if you get really defensive, the pushback's gonna get harder, right? But yeah. Thanks so much. I'll be back soon. Next time I'm gonna be live is going to be for sure. I'll be back on Monday. I'll be back on Monday for sure. So if you're looking for me, I'll definitely be around then. And I should also be live on the following Monday. I'll be live on Debate Hub on the 27th. But other than that, I don't think you're gonna see me. So the 26th, I'll be live here. The 27th, I'll be live on Debate Hub doing politics. And on the 29th, we should be back to our regular schedule, but we might be doing a little bit of finagly. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back soon. Maybe just hit the bell to find out when I'm gonna be back. So, thanks. Bye.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.